always nice, little girl. Now go and open the door and let Uncle Pollock in.
All in the Family didn't just change television, it exposed America to itself. When audiences first heard a daughter plead, "Daddy, please be nice," they weren't watching a sitcom, they were witnessing a family battlefield that looked uncomfortably familiar. At the center stood Carroll O'Connor, a man who played rage, prejudice, and fear so convincingly that millions mistook the character for the actor. But what viewers over 50 never saw was the emotional cost behind that performance. Off camera, O'Connor was thoughtful, protective, and deeply human, nothing like Archie Bunker. The tension between who he was and who America needed him to be created a pressure cooker that followed the cast beyond the soundstage. This wasn't comedy made for comfort. It was comedy made to confront. And once you understand what happened behind closed doors, the laughter will never sound the same again. Carroll O'Connor carried Archie Bunker like a burden, not a badge of honor. To the public, Archie was loud, crude, and unapologetic, a walking symbol of everything America was arguing about in the early 1970 seconds. But inside the studio, O'Connor understood something most viewers didn't. Archie was not a joke, he was a warning. Playing him required emotional discipline bordering on self-erasure. Carroll didn't soften Archie to make him likable. He sharpened him, trusting the audience to feel discomfort instead of relief. That choice came at a cost. After rehearsals, Carroll often withdrew, conserving energy, guarding himself from becoming the man he portrayed. Younger cast members noticed it. He was generous, even fatherly, but distant in a way that felt intentional. He knew that once the line between actor and character blurred, it might never fully return. And America didn't make it easier. Fans stopped him on the street, praising Archie's opinions as if they were Carroll's own. That misunderstanding haunted him. He wasn't glorifying prejudice, he was exposing it. And the emotional toll of carrying that misunderstanding would follow him long after the applause faded. Sally Struthers didn't just play a daughter on television, she became one in the middle of America's generational civil war. As Gloria, she stood between tradition and rebellion, love and resentment, loyalty and independence. What audiences over 50 recognized immediately was how real that tension felt. Sally brought her own vulnerability into the role, especially after losing her father shortly before joining the show. That absence made her connection to Carroll O'Connor deeply personal. Off camera, he protected her. On camera, he challenged her relentlessly. The emotional whiplash mirrored real family dynamics across the country. Sally learned quickly that All in the Family wasn't a safe sitcom. Every line mattered. Every argument echoed something viewers had said or wanted to say at their own dinner tables. Fame came fast, but it wasn't gentle. She was praised for being outspoken, then criticized for it. Loved for Gloria's defiance, then judged for it. Sally wasn't just acting, she was absorbing America's reaction to changing roles for women. And once you see how much of herself she poured into Gloria, the character's emotional exhaustion suddenly makes sense. Jean Stapleton played Edith Bunker so softly that many mistook gentleness for weakness. That misunderstanding couldn't have been further from the truth. Jean was intellectually formidable, deeply educated, and emotionally precise. She chose restraint not because Edith lacked intelligence, but because kindness was her weapon. In a house ruled by Archie's volume, Edith survived through empathy. Jean understood that this made Edith the moral center of the show, even if she never won an argument outright. Off-screen, Jean lived much the same way, free of bitterness, uninterested in celebrity games, grounded in personal faith and discipline. Her co-stars often described her as calming simply to be around, but that calm required effort. Night after night, Jean absorbed Archie's verbal aggression without returning it, a performance choice that demanded immense emotional control. For viewers over 50, Edith felt familiar, a mother, a wife, a woman who held families together quietly. What they didn't see was how deliberate that performance was. Jean wasn't playing small. She was playing deep. And in doing so, she gave American television one of its most enduring portraits of emotional strength, disguised as softness. Norman Lear, the creator behind All in the Family, understood something networks feared. Audiences didn't need protection from hard conversations. They needed permission to have them. Lear didn't write Archie Bunker to be admired or condemned. He wrote him to be revealed. His genius was trusting viewers, especially older ones, to recognize themselves without being told what to think. That trust was revolutionary. At a time when television avoided controversy, Lear ran directly toward it. He encouraged writers to pull from real arguments, real prejudices, real pain. The laughter was never meant to erase discomfort. It was meant to create space for it. Behind the scenes, Lear defended his cast fiercely, especially when backlash arrived. And it did letters, protests, boycotts. Lear stood firm, believing that silence was more dangerous than offense. His approach reshaped television forever, proving that comedy could carry moral weight without preaching. For audiences who lived through that era, Lear's work wasn't entertainment, it was a weekly reckoning. And that reckoning still echoes today. The audience, particularly viewers over 50, didn't just watch All in the Family, they recognized it. Archie sounded like uncles, neighbors, co-workers, sometimes even themselves. Edith resembled wives and mothers who held families together through patience rather than power. Gloria mirrored daughters who refused to inherit silence. That familiarity made the show unsettling and irresistible. Unlike modern sitcoms that cushion conflict with irony, this show let arguments breathe. It didn't rush toward resolution. That pacing mirrored real life, where disagreements linger. Older viewers understood that rhythm instinctively. They weren't watching fantasy. They were watching reflection. That's why the show sparked conversations after episodes ended. It forced people to talk, to agree, to argue, to defend, to reconsider. Television had rarely demanded that before. And once audiences realized they were part of the experience, not just spectators, loyalty followed. This wasn't escapism, it was engagement. And that's why decades later reruns still hit a nerve. Fame hit the cast of All in the Family with a force none of them fully anticipated, and it didn't arrive gently. Viewers quickly blurred the line between performance and belief, treating characters as political statements and actors as spokespeople. Carol O'Connor was praised by some for telling it like it is, and condemned by others as if he personally embodied Archie's rage and prejudice. Jean Stapleton received heartfelt letters from women who claimed Edith had saved their marriages, as if Jean herself were offering counsel from their living rooms. Sally Struthers became a lightning rod, celebrated and attacked for representing feminism, youth rebellion, and generational defiance all at once. None of them were prepared for the intensity of that projection. The show didn't merely entertain, it divided dinner tables, workplaces, and families. Cast members learned to move carefully in public, aware that a single comment could harden opinion overnight. And yet, they never asked for the scripts to be softened. They understood that honesty carried consequences and accepted them. Long before social media amplified outrage, backlash traveled swiftly through newspapers, talk shows, and word of mouth. The pressure never eased, but they stayed, season after season, because they believed the work mattered. It wasn't comfortable television. It was necessary television, and that conviction is why it endured. The legacy of All in the Family has nothing to do with nostalgia and everything to do with recognition. The world didn't outgrow the arguments this show dared to put on television, it simply learned new words to disguise them. Prejudice didn't vanish. It adapted. Generational conflict didn't heal. It went underground. What made the series endure is its refusal to comfort the audience or tidy up ugly truths. It never rushed to reassure viewers that everything would be fine. Instead, it asked them to sit with unease and decide what it meant. For viewers over 50, watching the show today is a different experience entirely. Lines that once earned easy laughter now land with a sharper edge. You begin to hear what was being said beneath the jokes. Edith's long pauses no longer feel quaint, they feel heavy. intentional, protective. Gloria's frustration reads less like youthful rebellion and more like exhaustion from carrying emotional labor no one acknowledged. Archie's bluster stops sounding confident and starts sounding afraid. None of it was accidental. These performances were precise, disciplined, and deeply aware of the moment they were capturing. The cast didn't exaggerate stereotypes for laughs. They exposed truths people preferred not to confront. And that's why the laughter still echoes with weight. Because hidden inside every punchline was a question America continues to avoid answering. The enduring power of All in the Family lies in its refusal to fade quietly into history. This wasn't a show designed to age gracefully on nostalgia alone. It was built to be revisited, re-examined, and reinterpreted as America changed and as audiences changed with it. For viewers over 50, returning to these episodes today feels less like entertainment and more like a reckoning. You don't just remember where you were when you first heard those lines. You remember who you were. The laughter you once shared now carries a different weight because time has given you context. Experience sharpens what youth once brushed aside. What makes that experience so unsettling and so valuable is the show's honesty. It never pretended that families resolve their deepest conflicts in 22 minutes. It didn't offer tidy morals or safe conclusions. Instead, it trusted viewers to sit with unresolved tension, to recognize fear disguised as certainty, love tangled with resentment, and silence mistaken for peace. Archie Bunker wasn't a monster. He was a man afraid of losing the world he understood. Edith wasn't weak. She was enduring. Gloria wasn't rebellious for sport. She was demanding to be heard. These weren't characters written to be liked. They were written to be recognized. That recognition is why the show still matters. Long after trends have shifted and language has evolved, the core questions remain stubbornly present. How do generations speak to each other when they no longer share the same assumptions? How does prejudice survive by hiding behind humor? How often does silence feel easier than confrontation, and what does it cost us in the long run? All in the Family didn't answer those questions. It forced them into the open and let audiences wrestle with the discomfort themselves. That courage is rare, even now. If you're watching or rewatching this story today, you're not just consuming television history. You're participating in an ongoing conversation that America still hasn't finished having, and that's where you come in. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on why. Did it remind you of your own family, your parents, your children, yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective matters, especially if you lived through the era this show portrayed. If you want more deep dives into the hidden truths behind iconic Hollywood figures and the shows that shaped generations, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next, because the stories behind the laughter are often more revealing than the jokes themselves. And in the next episode, we'll explore how one other groundbreaking television series quietly carried the same cultural bombshell, but in a way few people ever noticed.